Hi, everyone. You are listening to the Wellness Inspired Podcast. I'm your host, Sherry Davidson, and I hope you all had a wonderful Thanksgiving. I know I did. I got to engage in some of my favorite things, spending time with my family in my home. And I think what's so special about that for me is I get to hold the space for my family to come together, to cook together and eat together, and enjoy a little drink together. My preference is wine. But it's a special time for me, and it's those special moments that I will take away from my Thanksgiving day. You know, we all know the holidays can be stressful, chaotic, and crazy. They pass by quickly. So I hope you take the time to find those special moments that bring you gratitude and joy throughout your holidays. The moments to remember, because with a snap of the fingers, we are on to the next celebration. And speaking of moving on, we are on to the second episode of this podcast. But before we move forward, if you missed the first, please check it out. It was with Kivani on spiritual direction and animal communication. She supports spiritual seekers as they confront their shadow selves, discover their divinity, and fulfill their unique purpose. She also has a great story of her own. She went from a successful law career to spiritual direction and animal communication. The catalyst to this change was her dog. And that's all I'm going to say here. So please check it out and let me know what you think. I'll put the link in the show notes so you can click and listen. This episode is The Glorious Gut Biome with Shana Tatum, and I am super excited about it. It is packed with a lot of great information I think you will enjoy, and information that will be useful for you in your daily life. And of course, as always, inspire you in the pursuit of wellness. All right, well, let's jump in. The glorious microbiome. You know, I read a great analogy on the nutrition source of Harvard T.H. Chan School of Public Health website, and I'll share it with you here. So picture a big bustling city on a Monday morning, the sidewalks flooded with a diversity of people rushing to get to work, appointments, meetings, and daily errands. This high activity is active and energizing. The city is thriving and prosperous. Now, imagine this high activity and bustling city on a microscopic level. This is what the microbiome looks like and operates in and on our bodies. It consists of 100 trillion microorganisms of thousands of different species. This is also known as the microbiota, or microbes. It includes bacteria, fungi, parasites, viruses, protozoa, and they all live on and in the body. However, the majority live in our small and large intestines, and this is referred to as the gut biome. You know, it's hard to believe that we humans are mostly microbial bugs. They outnumber our human cells 10 to 1. This microbiome is so extensive, some label it a supporting organ because it plays many key roles in promoting a smooth daily operation of the human body. In a healthy person, these bugs coexist peacefully. But when our friends are out of balance, it can affect our immune health, metabolic health, brain health, leading to an array of disorders. And we are just touching the surface of the importance of our friends and the role they play in our health and wellness. Unfortunately, many of us have an impaired gut biome, and this is called dysbiosis, and mostly due to lifestyle and aging. It's many years of following diets that are high in processed foods and sugar, conventionally raised meats, dairy products full of hormones, plus rounds and rounds of antibiotics, too many antacids, and chronic stress. With all that said, let me introduce my next guest, Shana Tatum. She is a registered dietitian nutritionist that follows a personal functional nutrition approach, finding wellness through the power of food, balanced with good sleep, daily movement, stress reduction, and meaningful relationships. She deeply believes optimal wellness and vitality can be realized. She is also a member of the Dietitian in Integrative and Functional Medicine Practice Group with the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics, and a member of the Institute of Functional Medicine. When it comes to gut health, Shana recommends eating real food, getting more fiber, sleeping well for a healthy, vital life. Let's dive in to the glorious gut biome with Shana Tatum. Hi, Shana. Welcome.
Hi, Sherry. So happy to be here with you today.
Well, I am so thankful that you are taking the time out to come and hang out with me and chat a little bit about the microbiome.
It's fascinating.
It's fascinating. It is something that has been, more and more research is being done on it. And we are finding these amazing health benefits, not just immunity, but a wide range.
Right.
And it's this new frontier of science, I think. And, you hear a lot about probiotics and the gut biome, but I thought it'd be really great just to really dive into it here. You're a registered dietitian and functional medicine doctor. You're passionate about the biome. I know we've talked about that before. So I think you're the perfect person to dive in deep with.
Yes. So just a quick correction. I'm not a doctor. I'm a dietitian. And I do follow a functional medicine model, which is really just looking at whole health. I think it's the way medicine used to be practiced. And looking at gut health is kind of the foundation of so many places where we start to look when people are showing these imbalances. So it's natural that the science is starting to show these benefits of the microbiota and what they do for us. So just to kind of give you a big picture view, we have somewhere around 100 trillion microorganisms from our mouth to the anus.
Wow.
That's a lot.
It's huge.
It's hard for me to really wrap my mind around how many that is.
It's a lot.
And the research and the over-the-counter probiotics that we get may have 4 to 10 strains of probiotics. And so that's a pretty small amount compared to 100 trillion. So I think we're just beginning to start to understand what is there and then what are the health benefits that they confer.
Yes.
So of that 100 trillion, we start to think about, well, what are the things that they really can do for us? And just for today's discussion, we could focus on immune health, which you've already highlighted, but also metabolic health. We're starting to see more and more changes in people who are obese or are overweight and the types of colony units that they have. And so metabolism is another way that they help us. And then our brain health, really helping to regulate our neurotransmitters and how well we can produce them, as well as how much we can utilize them. So those 3 areas, immune health, metabolism, and brain health, are really 3 key places that we can discuss today.
Well, I think they all sound fantastic. And I don't know if you guys can hear Finn, my dog, in the background, but he's speaking a little bit.
He's happy about the microbiome
he's happy about the microbiome. Probably will not be the last you guys hear of him. I think I would love to touch a little bit on all those topics. We can just see where the conversation leads us, because I think they're all really important discussions. So I think what I would really like to start with is a definition of a probiotic.
A probiotic is a living organism that is in the body to confer some kind of health benefit. Living is the key word there. Although, as we're talking about research, there is some data to show that even dead fragments of probiotics can be useful. And I think that we're starting to see some uses of that in treatment.
Do you, what does it treat? Are there specific things that they're seeing?
Probiotics treat?
No, you said the actual, because probiotics are supposed to be alive. What we know is that they're supposed to be alive for them to be effective, right? But you said that there's some, I don't know, you say studies?
Yes. So I think it's probably looking at inflammatory conditions.
Yeah. Got it. So there's a company, you probably have heard of them, Seed. I think we've actually talked about them before. I heard an interview with them, and they're really trying to set some industry standards around probiotics, which I think is good because marketing has diluted and it's kind of a loose term now. So it's kind of what exactly is a probiotic. And I think that'd be really great to talk about here. But the way they define it was exactly how you defined it. And then they added that it should be tested in the human population for that claim that you're making. Right. I think that's good because probiotics is on everything now.
Yeah.
So how does the consumer sift through all of that information?
Yeah, well, that's the hard thing because probiotics, just like all other supplements, multivitamins, magnesium, zincs, vitamin C, quercetin, all these things that people are being told to take during COVID, there's not a regulatory body to oversee and really show that what's in the bottle is actually what you're getting.
Yeah.
There are companies that will test that you can, that those companies will have on their label, like USP and NSF will show that these things have been tested and really are what they say they are.
Yeah.
But I do caution a lot of my patients about not ordering supplements and protein powders, meal replacements just from these large online sellers because we don't really know where they're coming from or how long maybe they've sat in a hot warehouse. Because some probiotics you do need to refrigerate, others you don't. And if you are just ordering it from a big company like that's not the manufacturer or from your healthcare provider, then you may not really be getting what you think you are.
Yeah. So what is the difference between, let's say, a professional grade probiotic and then something you might see in a yogurt?
Yeah. So those usually a professional pharmaceutical grade have been third-party tested.
Got it.
And those companies use protocols and testing and source ingredients from tested companies. That would be one thing. The other thing is that usually they're doing some kind of clinical study to show the efficacy or the benefit of their products. That's also a benefit of using a pharmaceutical grade or a professional level product. But there are some pretty decent over-the-counter probiotics that you can buy. And I think that are good for you or not going to cause a problem. I do encourage my patients to start with a low dose to begin. One of the things that I was reading recently was our genetic material is about 99% the same, human to human, like yours and mine. We have about 99% of the genes in common.
Yeah.
But only about 10% of our microbiome is the same. So that means 90% difference. So while I might recommend for my patients a standard strain of probiotics that would have some lactobacillus strains and some bifidobacterium strains, those are the two that we see the most in research as conferring benefit, you may not do so well with that. So if I have a patient who has a lot of allergies, let's say, and maybe having a high, what's called histamine reaction, there are specific strains that we want to avoid because those are histamine producers. So just if you're getting something on your own, start slow with it.
Yeah.
And then build up a little bit over time, just to be sure that you're not having any kind of reaction to it.
So you're saying that 90% of our genetics is the same, but 10% of our biome, our microbiome, not just the gut, but the microbiome
overall skin, nasal,
is different.
Ears. Yeah.
And that is what makes us.
It's interesting to think. Is that the part? Because when we go back to that 100 trillion microorganisms, so their genetic material is somewhere around like 3 million Our genetic material is like 23,000.
Hmm.
So we're really a lot more genetic material of bacteria and yeast than we are human. And if only 10% of that is similar, in every person, how much of our expression, or what you call our phenotype, is based on the bacteria?
Yeah, that's crazy. I find it fascinating. And if you think of, I heard somebody describe it as like we are an ecosystem.
Totally.
And like, if you think of a rainforest, like we don't think of ourselves like that.
No, we don't. And I'll tell you, I had such an eye-opening moment. I worked on a regenerative farm for about 3 months because I really wanted to understand where our food was coming from, what the food system was like, and really understand soil health.
Yeah.
And there's just this amazing overlap of the soil and all the microorganisms and that ecosystem compared to our ecosystem of what's in the gut. It's very, very similar. And just like in nature, we see all the time these copies of things that are just repeated, these patterns that are repeated and are so successful that once I started getting a better understanding of that, then it made more sense to me that all of these other effects of the body can be expressed or silenced too. I mean, we have genes that can be silenced based on the food we're eating, the way we're sleeping, how we move our bodies, how we're managing our stress, all these.
Is that the epigenetics?
Yes, completely.
Yeah. It's fascinating to also think of, well, like I said, our body as an ecosystem, but we don't think of food as information either. Right. Like we just see the pleasure in it and how it tastes. We don't really think of it as it is feeding not just your appetite, but the appetite of your whole microbiome.
Oh yeah.
And then like going back to the soil, it's if that soil is not populated the way that it should be, or if it's not being taken care of, you can talk about that. I think that'd be a great like food meditation. Have you ever done like a food meditation?
Yes.
Did you? I think it'd be great to think like, like how it is informing your body to perform.
Absolutely.
Would be an interesting meditation to do.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's amazing, all these things. And again, maybe we know this much, just a little bit, like we do about the gut health.
Yeah.
But I think that we have a lot to learn from what the soil is doing so that we can apply that to human health.
So why don't you talk about that a little bit? I know conceptually, like we're not getting, our soils are depleted, but I don't really know what that means.
Well, they don't have the same, industrial farming has gone to using fertilizers and soil enhancements and tilling the soil rather than doing cover crops and letting the soil regenerate and gain nutrients from those,
So
rest.
You shouldn't till. I see. Okay.
Just like us. Like you tell your patients all the time, probably when they come in here for acupuncture, and I can speak as a patient of yours, that you're resting. I'm really letting my nervous system shift from this fight or flight mode into the rest and digest mode.
Yeah.
And as I'm laying there and these points that you've determined need attention, I can really repair and regenerate. That's the beauty of that nervous system. It's the same thing in the soil. Once we let those microbes take nutrients from these cover crops and more from the rain and the sun, then it's depositing not only minerals, but it's also harnessing carbon from the atmosphere to improve our overall health as we're talking about climate change. So there's so many levels to which our food systems, and especially when it comes to farming, has changed, that we're not, so the soil is not as nourished as it used to be. Our practices are just different, the way we water, how quickly we harvest so that it can get from
travel
Mexico or California, here to Houston or to the East Coast. So, and and then there's the whole genetically modified conversation.
Yeah.
So there's so many different inputs, I think, that we have now that have changed what we're eating. But that when we can, just as you say, kind of meditate on the concept of food as information, yes, we do want food to bring us pleasure.
Of course.
And we do want it to bring community, that we come around the table and share together. You know, I have 3 boys, and it was imperative, at least on the nights we weren't at soccer practice, to be sitting down and sharing the day over our meal. And I understand that's a luxury not everybody can have, but when you do, it's important. But as we sit down and we pile on, you know, the pleasure factor and the community factor and the cultural factor, there are all these other things that layer. But at the essence, our food is directing cell membranes to be made. It's creating sex hormones. It's repairing DNA. It's feeding those microorganisms. So every decision you make for what you put at the end of your fork is directing your health.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, going back to sitting down and eating with your family, that is something, that's how I grew up. And every night we ate together.
That's great.
Weekends we had breakfast together. And it's the one thing that I remember the most about we just would hang out in the kitchen together. And we still do that today. When I go visit my parents, I know we're going to cook something and we're going to hang out in the kitchen and we're going to talk.
That's beautiful. I'd hug your mom if she were here.
I know it's really something that I will always remember and I'll always take with me.
Yeah.
Right. At the experiences of just that connection, and we're just a family that loves food anyway. And you know, I grew up on a very American diet, but it was more of the healthy side. Like my dad still believed in fresh vegetables and cooking meals instead of going out to eat. But I still had that kind of standard. You know, I'd come home from volleyball practice and I had a fry daddy.
Yeah.
And it was egg rolls and cheese sticks and pizza rolls. So I had this kind of combination. But I think that's very important. And nobody really wants to think about the information that they're it's not fun to think about that part, right?
But what we see is even just taking a moment when you're sitting down to eat, if it's prepared food or your own home cooking, if you can just have a few minutes to look at your food, take in, think about the texture and the colors. Hopefully there's a lot of colors on your plate. That primes the brain to activate release of saliva. And that's where, that first digestion of carbohydrates from amylase happens is in the saliva. And even just talking about my mouth is starting to get kind of water. Maybe yours is too if you're listening. And that improves our digestion. And then that signaling too goes to the stomach to release more stomach acid so that we can better digest our protein. Because one of the things that can happen with the microbiome is if we don't have properly digested food, they love our food. I mean, they're very important in helping us digest it, particularly all the fiber and cellulose and that's what they use to then make these, they're called metabolites, these end products that help us be healthy. And so if we give them too much that's not digested, they can become opportunistic, is what we call it. They can kind of overgrow, and you can start to have an imbalance. Some practitioners call it dysbiosis of the gut bacteria, primarily in the colon, but it can also happen in the small intestines, where that then starts to crowd out more of the good guys. We call them the commensals. And so then you start to kind of have some imbalance in your digestion. You could have changes in mental health. You could have constipation or diarrhea. You could start to see changes in your immune health. So little things can really start to offset the balance. And so taking a few minutes to have gratitude at your meal and just look at it can improve your digestion.
It all starts in the eyes.
Yeah, we eat with our eyes, we eat with our nose, our ears. There's a whole thing called the 9 hungers.
Oh, really?
Of really looking at all these other ways where we interface with food. That is an interesting read.
Oh, really? Is it a book?
I'm embarrassed. I can't remember her name. Maybe I'll get it and you can put it in the show notes.
Yeah, I can put it in the show notes. I love food.
I'm with you. I do too.
I love looking at it, and just another story when I was in my 20s. I might have been in my 20s. I was in Europe. I went backpacking across Europe and with a friend, and we were in Amsterdam. Oh, and I have two stories. One, I was on the train, and I remember I was watching, I'm just observing, and it was like a grandmother and a granddaughter. And she had this beautiful ornate box. And she opened up that box, and there was this bright red tomato. And she made them sandwiches on the train. I had lunch with them. They didn't know it, but I had lunch with them. But there was just something about that moment that I've never forgotten about being on that train, the connection between a grandmother, I'm assuming, and her granddaughter. And everything was just, this box was beautiful. The food was beautiful. Yeah.
That's wonderful.
I ate with them. And then another time we were at the Van Gogh Museum, and there was like a food kiosk right outside, and they were selling sandwiches. And again, it was these beautiful, this green lettuce with these beautiful tomatoes. I actually have a picture of me eating it. But it was just visually, it just started everything. It just made me hungry.
Yes. Yeah.
To see that.
I could see why.
Yeah. Well, let's talk a little bit more about the health benefits of the gut biome. Okay. We've talked a little bit about immunity. I know cognitive, it can play a role in mood, plays a big role in.
Definitely.
So let's talk a little bit about that. Okay. And I want to understand more the gut, the gut, brain axis. Yeah, sure. Because there is a link.
Yes, huge link.
Yeah.
So when we're born, as a fetus, first the brain develops and then the digestive system. Like it's this intricately connected thing. And so we have something called the vagal nerve that is one of the biggest nerves in the body. It starts in the brain, goes down, the esophagus, the lungs, into the small intestine, down to the anus. And so it sends and receives so much information. We actually think that more information comes from the vagal nerve to the brain than from the brain to out the vagal nerve.
Okay, I didn't realize it was the vagal nerve. Okay.
So much of those expressions we're familiar with, like, I have butterflies in my stomach.
Yeah.
Or, what are some? It's gut wrenching.
Yeah.
There's all these other sayings that make you feel like instantly what somebody means by that. So many of my patients will carry their emotions in their gut.
So in traditional Chinese medicine, there is the 5-element school of thought, and each element is associated with an organ system. And so the wood is related to the liver, gallbladder. And then the stomach and the spleen is related to the earth element. And they sit directly across from each other. And so there's a pattern called liver overacting on the spleen and the stomach.
Okay.
And that is people who are, like, say, Crohn's disease, IBS, those types of things, people who, the stress. And so there's this attack onto the nervous system. The spleen and the stomach. So usually those people are highly stressed people. Yeah. But it's interesting that people will put that into their digestive system.
Right.
Yeah.
And so are those points in this similar area?
There are points. Okay. And so if I am treating, say, IBS, I will do some stomach points, but also depends on what else is going on. And if it's due to a liver pattern, then I will do some liver, probably gallbladder points. Yeah. But it's interesting how you can see some of the overlaps.
Yeah,
sometimes.
There are, because I will, if I have a patient who's having if I've done a stool test where we collect a sample and analyze it by it's called PCR. We're actually looking at the DNA of the bacteria, the yeast, protozoa, and worms. Ick. But, we need to know. There. And then it'll also give me some intestinal health markers so I can see how well your pancreatic enzymes are functioning, if there's inflammation, if there is too much fat in the stool. So then I'll go and think, okay, we need some gallbladder support, or no, we need stomach acid support, or no, we need small intestine enzyme support. All those things can really play a big role.
Yeah.
But back to your question about the mental health, people forget or maybe don't know that about at least 70% of the serotonin, which is our kind of well-being neurotransmitter, that chemical in the brain that conveys kind of all is well, I feel good, I'm feeling a sense of well-being and happiness, is made in the intestinal tract. And so if we have some kind of imbalance there, well, it would be natural to assume that our serotonin production is going to be imbalanced. Now, there can also be some interruption in just the way that those neurotransmitters are received, from synapse to synapse. But if your production is low and you just don't have a lot in there, there are some things that we can do with digestion and supporting the microbiome that could definitely help with that. So I work a lot with my patients that have anxiety or depression. The first thing that we start to look at is their gut health and what is the balance of the microorganisms. Certainly look at their diet and what they're eating, because we want to be able to be supporting that with diet. But that's a key place to start to unravel some mysteries if depression, anxiety is present.
Wow. It's so amazing. It's just a whole new perspective, isn't it?
It is.
And, it's interesting. And I don't remember where I read it, but they were calling it, it sounds kind of crazy, but I think it's like psychobiome.
Yes. Yes. That's what it is.
Yeah. There's this, because medication only helps like 1 out of every 5 people, I think is the stat on that.
A low number. And if it does, it's wonderful. It really can be life-changing.
Yeah, absolutely.
But gut repair alongside medication is even better.
Yeah.
Because most likely that medication they're taking, if there is this imbalance or some other digestive compromise, you're not getting the full benefit of the medication either. So if we improve your assimilation and absorption of that, along with your food, along with the microorganisms, well, heck, you're going to be unstoppable.
Yeah.
And that's exciting to think about, that I could help somebody get to that.
Yeah. And again, I'm not against medication at all, but it's also, there are no side effects of the biome or fixing the gut biome, right?
Right.
Where there are some side effects from medications.
Right.
So that's very promising. And
it is. And it's not that hard. I mean, sometimes it takes a little time. We're so used to in America, and this goes back to the whole dinner table conversation about rush, get our meal, let's go, let's just eat it in the car. We expect results so fast. And I'm guilty of that too. I don't want to be down. I don't want to be feeling bad. But sometimes these more natural approaches take a little bit longer, because we didn't just wake up and yesterday get an imbalance of microorganisms. It's been something that's probably been building for a while.
And you have to be proactive.
Yeah.
Right. So it's not going to fix it by itself. And you have to kind of take that initiative and if you need to work with somebody for accountability, but you need to take that initiative to stay on track, and then you'll see the results.
Exactly.
But yeah. So what about, you said it also aids in metabolism.
Yes.
Let's talk a little bit about that.
So with metabolism, I have a fair amount of patients that come to see me for overweight and obesity and trying to lose weight. And sometimes that dysbiosis can be one of the obstacles to them losing weight. So thankfully, our microorganisms, do these things for us that are really important. And one of them is using fiber from our food. And we get fiber from things like beans and nuts and seeds, berries, some grains. It's plentiful if we seek out a whole foods diet. But that fiber will feed the microorganisms. We were talking about probiotics earlier. These are kind of what people call prebiotics. It's the food that will sustain the probiotics. Some companies will make their probiotic capsule with prebiotics in it so that you're automatically giving them some substrates to sustain. I think that's a good idea, but I also want you eating, the rainbow and all of these fibrous foods. So with eating a diet like that, one, it makes you feel fuller. So you're less likely to have those other snacks during the day, whatever they are. So that's one benefit for having fiber. A second benefit is it feeding these microorganisms so that we have a lot of these end products that they make. And one of those is called a short chain fatty acid, or SCFA. And these are things that provide fuel to the cells that line the intestinal tract. When those are fed and really well nourished, then you can assimilate all your food and absorb the nutrients from it rather than not absorbing it. And you feel satisfied with your meals. You're eating less and you're healthier because your intestinal tract can actually use the nutrients that's in your food. It also provides, these microorganisms can make B vitamins. They make vitamin K. So they make things that help provide energy and help utilize the nutrients that we get from our food.
Are you talking about like the gut barrier?
Yes.
Yeah,
it's important that is really intact because so many things in our modern world now can cause that barrier to be compromised. And probably all your listeners have heard of leaky gut. We usually call it intestinal permeability, but it's where sometimes the space between these cells that line the tract, they have little anchor proteins that hold them together. And these anchor proteins can be disrupted. And things like herbicides and pesticides can do it. We see for some people, gluten can do that. Stress.
I was thinking stress.
Chronic stress can do it. And then once that, it's called transcellular permeability, once those little bits of proteins and or bacterial fragments, they can migrate between the cells and then get into the bloodstream. And then your immune system sees that kind of as this foreign invader or a pathogen and will tag it and create an antibody to it. And then you start to have this whole cascade of inflammation and then you start to be sensitive to foods that you eat all the time because you have this migration. So fiber can help your microorganisms be fed well so that they're producing these short chain fatty acids that can protect.
We want to protect that.
We definitely want to protect that. That's one of the places, some people say, oh, the skin is, where we get most assault from the environment because we absorb everything we put on, as well as just, toxins from the air and pollution. But the intestinal tract, because of, all the little villi and the cilia that line that, actually have more surface area than what we do on our skin. And that's exposed really to the outside world.
Yeah, because you're putting, the food that you put in is from the outside world, and then it's having a conversation with, the interior.
And that conversation is a perfect point, Sherry, to bring up when we talked about earlier that you and I may only share 10% of the same kind of footprint for our microorganisms. It's what we're finding in the research is it's really that conversation between the bacteria and the host. Like, what are you as a host setting up your environment to grow or not grow all of these microorganisms?
Yeah.
And so that uniqueness of how you sleep, how you move your body, how you manage your stress, you know,
So
and
important.
relationships, like, you know, just our friendship could have a positive, which I know has a positive effect on my health.
Yeah.
So there's just so many. What's inspiring to me about it is that I'm in control of so much that, you know, I have people ask me, well, what's your COVID protocol? Well, it's getting up and exercising.
Yeah.
It's drinking my water every day.
Yeah.
It's getting to bed on time. It's eating colors at every meal.
Yeah.
I mean, it's these tiny daily choices that I'm making that are helping this microorganism be strong.
Yeah.
So when I do come into COVID, if I do, then it can fight it off.
Yeah. Which I think is a great lead in to, we really haven't talked, we've mentioned the immune system, but we really haven't talked about it. And I think that would be a good thing to jump into, especially since we're in the middle of this pandemic. And I know that people want to take care of themselves and they want to make sure that their immune is fighting for them. So, and 70% of our gut biome is our immune system. Is that right?
Right. Yeah. Exactly right.
Yeah. So that's pretty amazing. And that you need all these things that you've talked about to be happening in your body in order for your immune system to protect you. So let's jump into it.
So it is amazing to think, you know, that we've talked about metabolic health, brain health, and now immune health, that these very major regulatory systems in the body can be regulated by our microorganisms. So by having a good balance of those things, we can really have good protection. Because we see, not just in COVID, but any kind of illness, that the immune system, you know, we want a little activation of it. It's important to have that activation of it. It's once it's gone past that acute phase into chronic, where it's just still responding at this low level. So why would we want it just to be reacting to everyday insults so that when something bigger does come, there's less soldiers for that to recruit to come up against it? So dialing in all of those lifestyle factors is a great way to have your immune system really well supported.
Yeah. Why don't, and in the study you were telling me about.
Just out, I don't know, in the last month, the journal Gut had an article where they studied patients who had COVID-19, and they looked at their microbiome of patients who had the virus, and they saw that patients who had these specific criteria of a balanced gut, that they looked at, I don't remember exactly which strains were all present, but there were no pathogenic growth. There was, you know, not a lot of opportunistic bacteria, that there was pretty good balance in the gut. Those patients who had COVID responded far better than the patients who had imbalance or dysbiosis. So again, just one more reason that giving your food, you know, fiber, and managing your diet in a way that's full of color, as much whole foods as possible. And I don't necessarily mean from Whole Foods Market. I just mean real food. That's not always out of a box, although there are days that I eat something out of a box.
I think we're all probably guilty. Convenience, right? When you're got those tight schedules, but not how you want to live.
But in general, that we're really putting a focus on what you said earlier about what is that food going to do for me? And by making those intentional choices, then you know that you're really supporting your immune system. You're giving it protein. All of our white blood cells have to have protein. So if you're skimping on your protein, then we want to make sure that you've got enough protein every day to support that. All of the cofactors that we need, the vitamins and minerals that help those reactions happen to make more of the immune fighting molecules, we get those in food.
Yeah.
I do think sometimes a multivitamin could play a role in someone's health, especially if they're not eating a real foods diet regularly. But we really can get some good nutrition that's going to support those microorganisms and provide that immune support we need.
Yeah, so important right now. So important.
Yeah.
So what do you think about the overuse of sanitizer?
You know,
because we already were there before COVID.
Yes.
And now COVID has just really thrown that into overdrive.
Hyper. Yeah. I'll say my opinion on it has probably changed through the pandemic. Going back to the whole soil health conversation that we had, you know, there have been several studies comparing, you know, benefits of that hygiene hypothesis, where we really keep clean, disinfect, where families who were not as good as washing hands and washing produce and actually out in the dirt a lot more compared to people who didn't do that, that they had better health. So originally, when all of the hand sanitizer stuff came out, I was worried that we're killing off a lot of these beneficial things. But that's where you have to go back to the risk-benefit analysis. And I feel like it is a benefit to use it and not have the risk of spreading more germs, of possibly contaminating and, you know, being a spreader of COVID. But I do think we're going to start to see some downstream effects of our high use of it.
Yeah, I think so too. And I feel short-term use, like through this pandemic, is probably appropriate. But I feel like it's gonna be so ingrained that there's going to be people are going to be using it way past the pandemic. And I've even heard of a lot of UV lights going into workplaces, or I know an event that happened where people had to walk through UV lights in order to get into the convention, which is great. But I just, you know, it's kind of like, well, what's the long-term health?
I think there's a lot we don't know.
We don't know.
I just think there's a lot we don't know. And I think if we just go through, in general, if we go through life with an intention that I'm doing the best I can, and I have my fellow neighbor in mind in my decisions too, then you're probably going to be okay. But your point, which is part of what you do, studying human behavior and helping people make these behavior changes, is what kind of changes? How are we going to just rely on having that bottle of hand sanitizer now instead just washing our hands with soap and water?
Right.
I don't know. I think it will be interesting to see. And will we be able to really correlate any negative health findings to it? I don't know how to do that kind of study, but it would be interesting. Yeah.
Well, I know I was on a call with the Global Wellness Institute, and I heard them someone termed it, that there will be a movement called Dirty Wellness.
Dirty Wellness. And what would that look like?
I'm not sure. I don't know if they just came up with that term on the fly or because they just threw it out there and everybody started laughing. So I don't know if it really will be a movement, but it definitely would make sense. It's good to get dirty sometimes.
Yeah, it really is. I came to nutrition because I had a terrible case of psoriasis, which is an autoimmune condition. And that summer when I got the diagnosis, I didn't really want to take immunosuppressive drugs. I wanted to just explore some other options first. And that's when I really started getting into nutrition and evaluating, different elimination diets and probiotics and vitamin D and fatty acids, all these different things that were showing in the research to be supportive for psoriasis. But one of the other things I did was I was outside a lot. So I got natural vitamin D exposure and my hands were in the dirt. I completely redid our front yard and put in a garden. And I really think that helped me.
Yeah. I don't do a lot of gardening. I do have plants that I take care of, but I feel like on my races and being trail runner,
all your trails.
Yeah, that I get plenty of diversity out there. I'm pretty sure. So the other thing I wanted to ask you before we close up here, there are a couple more things. One, there's also some talk about boosting the immune system versus balancing the immune system. So I'm kind of curious of what your thoughts are on that.
I'm all for balancing.
Yeah.
I think all the things, the strategies that we talked about today are illuminating that.
Yeah.
That too much of anything is really not good.
Yeah.
Sometimes when I'm helping my patients know how much vitamin C they should be taking, it's called to bowel tolerance. So you take it and then you wait 15 minutes and you take another dose, and you wait 15 minutes, you take another dose until you have diarrhea. And that way you know you're at what your body needs at that point for vitamin C. We don't need that approach for everything.
Sure.
That helps establish for that particular antioxidant. But if we were to just boost everything, then we're kind of just still at this hypersensitive point. And if we go back to that idea of the immune system kind of reacting in a chronic state every day over everything, then will it have the resources? My guess is yes. The body's amazing.
It is amazing.
We barely know what it all can do. It's powerful.
Yeah.
If we just get out of the way.
Exactly.
But I think if we're constantly trying to boost this, boost that, high protein this, high fat that, you know, I'm also not a subscriber to everything in moderation, because people who have type 2 diabetes, hypertension, metabolic syndrome, they really can't do moderation.
Yeah.
You know, there's just, they're in need of some acute changes.
Yeah.
But I think for us to have the opinion, at least I think Western belief is more is better.
Right.
And I don't think that's the case.
Yeah, that, and I think getting around the marketing messages.
Yes, they're strong.
They're strong. Yeah. I think it's important to understand what boosting could mean, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
And it might set you up for something that you don't want.
That's right.
Yeah.
I have patients all the time that are bringing in whatever the latest celebrity on Instagram has made for this smoothie mix or protein powder, and it will have probiotics, and it will have fiber, and it will have, you know, all these additive things, which I understand they're trying to do like a one-shot fix. But if this person comes to me and they have IBS, you know, I'm going to be looking at these strains of bacteria. I'm going to be looking at what type of fiber, because not all fiber is good for all people.
Yeah.
So just because, you know, a celebrity is promoting it or it's on every social media outlet doesn't necessarily mean that it's the perfect thing for you to.
Correct. Yeah. And it is, you're right. Marketing it's very, very strong, and it will reel you in and make you a believer.
I fall prey to it too.
I do
just
too.
For, you know, all the natural, clean, modern labels. I think,
I do too.
And then I think, no, you have to turn that around and read it.
Read the label.
Yeah.
I think it would be fun one day to do like a trip to the grocery store with you, and we can put it on.
That would be fun.
Yeah, it would be fun. I read the labels, but you're the expert, and there's a lot of things that I just can't even pronounce half of the time. And I know there's a lot, especially for sugar, there are a lot of different names for sugar that they hide.
Oh yeah, something like 340 something names of sugar. Probably more than that.
We should so do that.
Yeah, that would be fun.
So let me ask you this. So how would somebody test their gut biome? Is that something they would do through you? Is it something they could do?
You can ask your healthcare provider for a stool test. Most conventional doctors will do what's called an ONP, which they're just looking at kind of ova and parasites. But these other functional tests that are PCR or DNA driven tests, I really do like, and more, those are more from the either an integrative or functional medicine practitioner that you can do, and they will look at those strains of bacteria, pathogenic bacteria and viruses as well as parasites and worms. And then it will look at the commensal bacteria, which we want in, a good amount, and the other normal flora that may be opportunistic. It'll give us that information, and then those intestinal health markers. Some tests will also do, besides just the PCR, they'll do a culture. So they'll take some of those, they'll take a sample and put it in a petri dish and see what grows out. And then we can see just another, besides the DNA, but we can also see culture is kind of a check and balance to see what else might be potentially pathogenic. Those usually are not covered by insurance. There are a couple of providers that do take some coverage for insurance. And they range somewhere between $300 and $350. So they're kind of expensive. Yeah. But healthcare savings account funds, if you have that can cover it. But it's a really good test, particularly if you have GI symptoms, if you have a lot of anxiety and depression, or if you have autoimmune conditions. Those three populations, I pretty much always am recommending to do a stool test.
And is it, I'm not sure what the cost is of doing that if it's not covered by insurance. Is there a home test?
There are some home tests you can do. I think it's called Biome, or I'm not that familiar with them. The professional grade ones, I know the standards of these labs. Right. I have had some patients bring test to me, but it's more of the food sensitivity test, like an Everlywell test.
Yes, that's what I was thinking, like Everlywell. Like, do they do any
I'm
kind of...
not sure if they do a stool test. I haven't looked.
Yeah.
But I just know the standards for these tests, and they may be okay.
Yeah. But they're probably not as detailed. So who knows what you would be able to really tell from
There's a lot of clinical research that's going to back up the reasons that they're showing that these strains are linked to this autoimmunity, or what other, antibiotic might be used to treat this overgrowth.
Yeah. So interesting.
It is. It's fascinating.
So I want to talk about one last thing.
Okay.
Because I find it fascinating, or fecal transplants. And I read, was it a study or was I just reading an article? I might have been just reading an article. There was a girl did a fecal transplant, and I believe she started gaining weight, and it had to do with the microbiome in the fecal transplant that was causing her to gain weight. What I don't know about them is the difference between doing a fecal transplant as opposed to fixing the gut, so you don't have that leaky gut or permeability.
Right.
What's the difference between the two?
Yeah. So I think they're very interesting. Yeah. Right now, the FDA has only approved them for treatment for C. difficile. Is usually mostly a hospital-acquired bacterial.
Oh, really?
A bad player.
Really?
And in some people, it can be fatal. It can make you really sick.
And it's something you usually get from the hospital?
Usually
common.
That's where it comes from. But not always. Sure. Not always. But there are antibiotics for it. But if you're antibiotic resistant and the C. diff does not get taken care of by those antibiotics, then the government has approved treatment by fecal transplant to treat that. Currently, you can't use it legally. Sure. For anything else, there are people doing home transplants. It would be like a rectal enema. I'm not recommending it for anybody. Please don't go out and do this. But it is, what some people are doing. Yeah. I do think it is going to be something of the future because when we talked about metabolic health being one of the benefits of a good microbiome, and just the example that you gave and how that woman gained weight, it can turn on and off genes. And so we're seeing that might be one of the things that having this whole new footprint that comes in, because it's the whole environment. It's not just like the difference of taking a probiotic capsule compared to a poop pill, which is actually in formation.
Interesting.
That it would be freeze-dried fecal matter, poop, that's into a capsule. And they've actually shown in studies there's really not much difference between adding it,
ingesting it, or doing a suppository or something.
And they're enteric coating, meaning that they are coated so that it makes it through the stomach acid into the small intestines, large intestines.
And all this time when Finn eats poop, I'm like, what are you doing? Like,
well, there was a study. I think so.
Know.
There was a study of some German soldiers that when they were somewhere in Africa, I don't remember where in the study, but they were having to eat camel dung. And it was just kind of part of their experience. And they actually improved their health, like this dysentery that they had. They got over it because they didn't have antibiotics.
Wow.
It's just, again, back to, I don't think we know.
We're just scratching the surface.
So I think that the transplants can be really beneficial. I mean, we already see for people that have C. diff that it's helping. I'd be very curious to see where it goes. I did read recently that there were a couple of these labs that are making the poop pills, and the FDA had asked them to stop taking donations because of COVID. That there may be something, because, GI distress is one of the places some people have problems. There may be something in that viral replication that we wouldn't want in that poop pill. So
that makes sense.
That was an interesting.
So there's a halt right now, but interesting. Yeah, where will we be in 10 to 15 years?
I think it's exciting.
It is exciting. About. It's very exciting, and I mean, it sounds kind of dirty, but
that could be part of the dirty wellness.
That's so funny. Maybe. So, what? Just to just tie things together as we come to a close, what would be your recommendations? Because we've talked about a lot of stuff. So, just summarize some good points for our listeners on how they can improve their gut biome at home.
Yes. So I think eating a good diet, nutrition is my thing. So I'm going to start with that. Just really putting some emphasis on planning your meals. I know it's so difficult and we're moving so fast these days. It feels hard to take some time to think about what you're going to eat during the week, but carving out a little bit of time to be proactive on that, I think is important. I love for my patients to shop at farmers markets because you get that seasonal, that local microflora on your food. It's the same thing when people talk about recommendations of having local honey for the allergy benefits of it. It's kind of a similar idea that when you're eating local food, you're getting that local bacteria.
And I just want to interrupt for 1 second. Shana walked me around the farmer's market one day. I used to frequent them more often, but I ran into you at the farmer's market, and she was the best guide ever.
Yes, it's so fun. If you want to meet me at the Urban Harvest Farmer's Market, I'm usually there about 8:15, sometimes 8:30.
Yeah.
And it's so much fun to meet your farmers who are working so hard for us. Yeah. But if that's kind of an extra bonus, if you can do local foods, but if not, just having consistent real foods, because it's going to provide you the color that I want you to be getting on your plate every day. It's going to provide that consistent fiber intake. Really thinking about your fiber, the berries. We're kind of coming out of blueberry season, but making sure you can get some berries, beans, any of the beans, chickpeas, pintos, black beans. They're all full of fiber. Oats, quinoa, millet, teff, all these other alternative grains. Those all have some good fiber. So trying to get those in your diet every day is important. And then really dialing in your sleep. Making sure that you're trying to get a consistent bedtime, a consistent rise time, so that you have more time for your bacteria. Because when we're at rest and you're not putting food down the tube, it lets the mechanisms really clean out and work better. So that period of fasting at night is important for our microbiome. So good sleep, And
do you recommend a time to stop eating? I don't know, like an hour before bed? Like, because some people, I mean, I that's one of my biggest struggles is I eat late because I don't get home until late.
Right. It happens to me too.
Yeah.
But even if you're eating at 8:00,
Yeah.
8:30, then try to not have any more snacks.
Yeah.
Now I have people who are really trying to maintain blood sugar.
Yeah.
Especially if it's a diabetic, then we might have a little bit of a protein snack before they go to bed to help manage through the night. But generally, other people, 2 to 3 hours would be the best.
Yeah.
But that time of reducing your insulin response and then also just giving your intestinal tract time to finish sweeping all that food out and then just letting that microbiome be a little bit more balanced during that time, there's some benefit.
Yeah.
So just to summarize the 3 points: eat real foods, get more fiber, and honor your sleep schedule. Those are 3 important things to do.
I love sleep. Well, tell people how to get in touch with you.
So I have an office in the Heights in Houston on Yale and 12th Street, but my website is my name, ShanaTatumRD.com, and I'm also on Facebook and Instagram at Shana Tatum RD.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Well, I so appreciate you.
It was fun. I love talking about. Thank you for giving me an opportunity to do that.
And I could keep going.
I know we could talk more.
We could, and so we'll just have to have you back, and we'll pick another.
Well, I like the idea of the grocery store tour.
I think that'd be fun. We can do it on. We'll video it.
Yes,
and then we can post it and actually make a episode out of it.
It's good. Love it.
Well, thank you, Shana. So appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you, Sherry.
Come back.
Bye.
Bye.
Well, what did you guys think? I hope that you were inspired by our conversation. Shana shared so much great information on the microbiome and how the disruption of the balance can affect our immune, metabolic, and brain health. And there is still so much to discover. I foresee many future conversations on this topic. To get started on nourishing your gut biome, remember, Shana recommends eating real food, getting plenty of fiber, and sleeping well for a healthy and vital life. And also, stay tuned to our trip to the grocery store. I think we had a great idea there, and hopefully we will follow through with that. Just some closing remarks before we finish up here. Get ready for the next episode, episode 3. It's on financial wellness with Soledad Tanner. Financial wellness is a much needed conversation and one that we will keep having here. Money is the number one stressor globally, and it affects our health and well-being, but no one's talking about it. But now people are starting to talk. The talk about money is getting louder. So join us in a great conversation that will get you to start thinking and talking about your money. Also, please join the Wellness Inspired community to get updates on new episodes and wellness inspiration in your inbox. Go to wellnessinspiredpodcast.com to sign up. And I'll also put the link to the website in the show notes so you can just click and go. And if you like what you hear, please give me a rating and review wherever you listen to your podcast. It helps others find me. Also, I love hearing from you. Your ideas, suggestions, and feedback are important to me. So please contact me at Sherry, SHERI, at wellnessinspiredpodcast.com. And I will put all of this in the show notes for your convenience. Well, that was fun. Until next time, thank you so much for listening. And as always, be inspired. Wellness Inspired. Bye.